Hello, Geraghty. How are you?
Hi, Hugh. I'm glad you're well. I need to see proof of life. Can you hold up a recent newspaper or something? Something to say
I've
this
got
is me. This
clippings,
is not
proof of
me.
life. Have you ever had stomach flu run through the entire household with the mom to
Oh
go down
no.
last because the grandparents are filling in this morning?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Hugh. Okay, all right. Well, all is
It's not my
forgiven.
problem.
Completely
It's Nana's problem.
understandable.
I'm in the studio.
You look clean and not disheveled and not all that frazzled. I salute you for
I don't
handling
look
the
like Hunter
domestic
Biden at
gastro
all, do
gentleman.
I? Jim, what I want to talk to you about is Hunter Biden. The
Okay.
plea deal is today. If you're
Mhm.
Judge Mary Ellen Noriega, do you accept it or do you reject it?
Any inclination she might have had is probably complicated by the fact that Hunter Biden's lawyer, who I believe is named Lionel Hutz, basically decided to lie to the court and pretend to be the House Ways and Means Committee, asking them to take down a posted document. In what seemed, by the way, Hugh, Lionel Hutz is the sleazy lawyer from The Simpsons, just for anybody who didn't catch that reference. But this is like just blatantly like a fraud. This is blatantly pretending to be somebody else, calling up and telling the court to take down a document over some technical issue, and that would certainly argue against it.
Well, I
I
saw
could
the
go on.
notice that sanctions might be coming for someone, but I didn't see his name. Is that who we think did it?
I look. As far as we know, it was Biden's lawyer, but like some of these things still need to be disclosed.
This is such a wild case. Did you see the lawyer with the bong out in the Daily Mirror? Got a picture. Hunter was visiting a lawyer, allegedly his lawyer in LA, and the lawyer was doing a bong hit on the porch.
Hugh, drug use around Hunter Biden just doesn't sound like the Hunter Biden we know. That just doesn't fit with you. Like semi seriously though, like if Hunter Biden is an addict, and obviously he's had written in the past about smoking crack every 15 minutes and having a very not just like having a very serious, potentially maybe like life threatening addiction. You wouldn't want him being around other people who are doing drugs, legal or
That's
illegal, right?
exactly, even if he's clean and sober, even if he's in recovery, you don't want people around him doing drugs.
Yes, and what's more, I mean, look, the NBC News had a report that said that Joe Biden, understandably, was very concerned about Hunter Biden, worried about him falling back into bad habits, falling back into addiction. Put aside all the partisan and all the different arguments we have with Joe Biden, every dad relates to that. Every dad relates to my child has problems. And the last thing I want is for them to be around other people that will get them back into the problems that we've worked so hard to just pull them out of that pit, right? So and that's
And
one of the
God
reasons
forbid
where
any of my kids have problems. I would not want them magnified by
mm,
virtue of my being on the radio. But Joe
and I'm
Biden is president of the United States, and these problems are alleged to include him when they come to Burisma and payments abroad. And it's
yeah,
just getting stinkier by the day. There are two stories here. I'm
we talk
not
about the
sure I
paintings.
approve of impeachment. Kevin McCarthy is said to be moving towards impeachment on the Burisma money. I think that's a bad move. What do you think?
I was going to say I thought you were going to refer to the story out this week in Insider that at least one of the purchasers of Hunter Biden's paintings, they don't know the sum, but presumably considerably some because all of them are selling for, minimum high five figures, right? That one of them has ended up on a board appointed by Biden. Now, this is a big time California Democratic Party donor. It's an unpaid position. This is the sort of thing that happens all the time. Very similar to the way big time party donors end up becoming ambassadors. But the interesting question is did this person get recommended by Hunter Biden? Did this person purchase one of Hunter Biden's paintings because they thought this would enhance their odds of having the president selected for one of these commissions? There's a lot that's not known, but all of this violates what Joe Biden told us back in August 2019 that there was going to be this giant inseparable wall between Hunter Biden and his business interests and his administration. And now all of a sudden we find out. Also, by the way, he apparently sold like 1 point some million in paintings, and somebody bought like 800,000 worth. Okay, I don't know who that person is, but like these paintings have no intrinsic value of their own. They're the only thing that they're valuable is that they've got Hunter Biden's signature on them, right? So the only reason you'd spend that much money on an original Hunter Biden is because this is a conduit to the president, because you're buying the paintings, But, oh, by the way, the other thing they told us is, don't worry, Hunter Biden's not going to know who the donors are. Well, apparently, according to Insider, Hunter Biden knows at least 3 of the donors. And there's nothing that guarantees
So,
the
Jim,
donor doesn't tell them.
let me switch over from this to the bigger problems of the Biden administration. I can't see him running for president. He is incapacitated. And often in public view, he is rambling and lost. Do you see it as often as I see it?
Yeah, and I think one of the vivid examples was the meeting with Herzog. It was only 5 to 10 minutes. It was in the White House, and you could just see. This is one of the rare times I'm very glad we're doing this visually, where you could see Biden's, hunched over. He's reading off the note card, and the voice is, very soft and very mumbly. And there are kind of moments where you could see Herzog kind of looking like, is he okay? Like being a little unnerved by this. And the thing that jumps out about that is not just like, obviously the president looks bad. We've had the president look bad. This was on like a late Tuesday morning. The president had nothing on his public schedule on Monday. He spent the weekend at Camp David, no public events. He spent Friday, he had no. This is his first public event in like 5 days, and he looked exhausted. And it wasn't like he'd been traveling. We all get jet lagged. We all have challenges. I don't know. Like, my suspicion is that when we don't see Joe Biden for 4 or 5 days, I'm guessing he's in rough shape. That just seems, because no White House would say, let's keep the president out of the spotlight for 5 days because, like, he's your most powerful messaging tool. He's the president, right? There's no deliberate upside to saying we're going to hide the president for a couple of days. And maybe the country will kind of get curious about where he is or something like that. There's nothing deliberate in all of that. So I see what you're saying.
We did this once before. Woodrow Wilson was incapacitated, stone cold stroke victim for the last year of his presidency, and nobody knew about it because Edith Wilson basically ran the country, and nobody knew that when Woodrow Wilson was impaired. They didn't know about his first stroke either during Versailles.
I was going to say Hillary Clinton would have been, and Kamala Harris would really be our second woman president when you look at what Edith Wilson was doing for the country for 1 year.
Yeah, but I just can't imagine making this poor guy go through a campaign. Can you? Do you think he's going to be their nominee?
I think the entire Biden strategy right now is to count on the Republicans to nominate Trump, make the election a referendum on Trump, try to stage manage Biden as best they can. They won't have COVID as an explanation for a basement campaign anymore. But we saw in 2022 he didn't go out and do big rallies or anything like that. He will do small addresses to donors. Hopefully he doesn't start rambling about Armageddon in front of them like he did back in 2022. And that they'll basically ride or die with that. Because one of the things that's kind of so revealing about what Democrats really think of Kamala Harris is that, Hugh, have you seen a single liberal columnist or a single Democratic official come out and say Biden should step down and Harris should be the 2024 nominee?
Great question. Not one.
I haven't seen a single one. And I think of myself as being fairly, well read, and also like if someone did, that would generate news. That would generate some headlines. People would be buzzing. Hey, did you hear that this, state senator in Michigan called for Kamala Harris to be the Democrat? But nobody's doing that. Jim
Geraghty, my colleague, is a contributing columnist to the Washington Post and with the National Review, where he authors Morning Jolt, which you can get every single day. I have a complaint about National Review. I did a deal with Jack Butler, your online editor. I did an article on the Dobbs case last year, and he promised me a free subscription instead of cash money. I took it, and then the subscription expired, and it was, I don't know what you pay people for contributing pieces, but I thought the subscription would be for at least 5 or 6 years. It lasted 6 months. Will you carry my objection to Mr. Butler?
Sure, Hugh. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to be the complaint.
That's what this radio show's all about, is my personal beefs with National Review.
It sounds like maybe you could do a column on Dobbs after 1 year. Maybe this is Jack's way of saying, it was really good. Maybe you want more.
All right, Jim.
It's a deal. The first one's free. You keep giving us more. Maybe we'll.
What I want to ask you about, the reason I asked you to stay over, we did everything about Hunter Biden in Section 1. The Republican primary, everyone's trying to get it over with 6 months before Iowa. I tell people I don't care about any poll until after half a dozen debates, and certainly not until after New Hampshire. What does Geraghty think?
I'd like to believe that next month, when they have the first Republican debate, I understand Donald Trump says he doesn't want to participate. I imagine Trump will participate at some point. I can't imagine Trump will be perfectly happy to watch other Republicans getting attention and, quote unquote, having fun without him. Now, obviously, he may counter program, he may comment on truth. So at some point, I think you'll see Trump on a debate stage with other Republicans. And that has the potential to change the race. I'm not saying it's definitely going to. I think it's safe to say that the dynamics of the race will not change short of something like that. I don't mean to poo-poo. There are some people who are long shots, or folks who are well behind, anywhere from 1% to 6% in the polls. Some of them I like a great deal. Some of them I'm not particularly big fans of. But I think it's safe to say that what they're doing right now is not really changing much of anything. It's not really gaining any traction. It's not resonating. You could say it's because people aren't paying attention, but I do think I think if you're a Republican primary voter, maybe you're not focused in like you would be, a week before or a month before, but the news is still going on. We saw the reaction in the polls to the indictments of Trump, so clearly, like, people are not completely oblivious to the news cycle. I just think that I'm going to use him as an example, and I don't mean to be Doug Burgum. He's going to be on the debate stage. I think there's actually something kind of intriguing about the way he basically hacked the donor requirement by saying if you donate $1, I'll give you a $20 gift card. I kind of want to say, well played, Doug Burgum. And look, maybe when he gets up on the debate stage, people will say, wow, I really like that guy. I knew nothing about the governor of North Dakota, and now I'm intrigued. But it can't happen for like all 6 or 7 of all of these. I was at a conference and on stage with Larry Elder. I just have a hard time seeing Larry Elder going from 0, 1%, asterisk, or some polls just forget to list him as an option entirely. It's really tough to see he's going to suddenly jump up to 15, 20% or something like that. I think one of the stories of the primary so far has been Ron DeSantis, who was, I would say riding high, but really had a lot of momentum after the midterm election. You win a state like Florida by 20 points, that's going to make people sit up and notice and say, oh, those of us with memories back to 2000 remember this being the ultimate swing state, and you just turned it into a deep red state. And his theory of the case, or theory of the race, was to say Florida is where woke goes to die. And it wasn't a direct criticism of Trump. It was like, I'm going to be Trump. I'm going to be every bit as much the culture warrior that he is, but I'm not going to be all the baggage, all the craziness, all the circus. Well, Ron DeSantis is not where he wants to be. He's, anywhere from low 20s to the mid-teens, national, both, and he's, not really caught fire in any of the early states either. So it requires something different. And we saw him, apparently cut 1/3 of his staff yesterday. He needed a shakeup. The original argument, the original approach was not getting him where he wants to go. I think it's going to take...
one thing I've noticed that's different, Jim? He used to be relatively difficult to book. He'd be available to book, but he used to be relatively difficult to book. Now he's out there doing earned media, which is free media, which is what I've always thought everyone ought to do. Every conversation that calls it, put me on hold, I'll go on right now, because there are voters out there.
Best moment of Ramaswamy's campaign, the clash with Don Lemon. Best moment, you could argue Don Lemon gave two candidates their best moment when he, trashed Nikki Haley for being past her prime. You go into this and you go into the arena and you make the argument for your case and you create fireworks, you create sparks, and Republican voters sit up and take notice and say, yes, good for you. Thank you for going into the lion's den and telling CNN, MSNBC, anybody else, this is what I believe and this is why we're right and this is what we're going to do.
Like Ronald Reagan did, go everywhere at any time. Geraghty, the artist formerly known as at Jim Geraghty at Twitter, is now at Jim Geraghty at X. Thank you, at Jim Geraghty at X. Never thought Jim would be X rated, but he is. Thank you, Jim, for staying.